Support for Colorado Today comes from Credit Union of Colorado. With access to over 30,000 ATMs and a mobile app, they're dedicated to offering the services of a big bank with a heart. Learn more at honestlygood.org.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Safeway, where teachers can save 5% every day. Download the Safeway app and verify your teacher status for exclusive offers and discounts. Get started at Safeway.com or in the Safeway app.
Today marks the official end of the dog days of summer. Yep, it's a real marker of time, according to the Farmer's Almanac. 40 days that usually make up the hottest days of the year. It's supposed to mean cooler weather is on the way. Here's hoping for rain, too. The leaf fire in western Colorado grew dramatically over the weekend, and the state evacuated people from a correction center nearby. I'm Haley May. Coming up, coal may be staging a quiet comeback in Colorado.
The question is whether it's cheaper to keep coal plants operating instead of building new renewables.
We'll tell you about a coal plant that could be open longer than expected. Then, it's not a bird, it's not a plane either, it's a police drone.
I really think that this is the way of the future, and I think this is where policing is going to go.
And the state has a plan to revamp the beaver population.
Those lush beaver pond areas are often the last remaining green places on the landscape.
Turns out they do a lot to help other animals too. It's Monday, August 11th. Here's the news in Colorado today. Coal power is having a resurgence in Colorado. The move comes as the state reevaluates plans to close all of its coal-fired power plants in the next 6 years. CPR's Sam Brash has been following this story as the White House works to reinvigorate the coal industry. Sam, besides Trump's support, are there other reasons the energy source is currently having a moment?
Absolutely. So U.S. electricity demand is rising for the first time in decades. The reason that's happening is things like AI data centers, electric vehicles are plugging into the grid, and so we just need more electricity. You might have heard that wind and solar is the cheapest way now to add new power to the grid, but it's also getting more expensive due to Trump's tariffs and the loss of federal green energy incentives. That means even big utilities like Xcel Energy are worried about grid reliability, and existing coal power plants might be a way to shore that up.
Okay, let's talk about a coal power plant you've been reporting on, the Ray-Nixon power plant near Colorado Springs.
Yeah, this power plant is about a dozen miles south of Colorado Springs. If you drive on I-25, you'll see its smokestacks rise from a cluster of big beige, boxy buildings. It was built in the 1980s, and it's the city's last coal-fired power plant. The city utility had planned to close the plant by the end of 2029, but now Colorado Springs Utilities wants to delay that retirement. Travis Steele is the CEO of the utility.
So what we're looking at is an option to utilize Nixon to help maintain reliability and to keep cost point as low as possible as we look for a longer term decarbon strategy, that meets Colorado Springs Utilities.
But aren't coal plants more expensive than renewables?
Yeah, megawatt for megawatt, new coal is certainly more expensive than wind and solar. The question is whether it's cheaper to keep coal plants operating instead of building new renewables. Some studies have looked at this question and said, yeah, it'd actually be cheaper to build new wind and solar than keep coal plants operating. But Colorado Springs Utility says that's not the case for them due to the rising costs of these new energy sources and transmission issues. But environmental groups, they've told me that's kind of beside the point because state law requires that these coal plants close. Matt Gerhardt is an attorney with the Sierra Club, and he told me he worries if the Ray-Nixon plant stays open, it could give license to other utilities to keep their coal-fired power plants open too.
I do think it is really concerning to have one of the major utilities in the state backtracking on commitments they've made when those commitments are a central part of meeting state climate goals.
Gerhardt argues these closures are required under two different state laws.
And yet, you've reported that the utility is talking to the state to see if it can keep the coal plant open longer. So does Governor Polis think that it could legally do that past 2029?
The governor thinks so. I asked him about this at a recent press conference, and he says the state is open to keeping the plant open for longer.
It is certainly possible that we would work with Colorado Springs Utility to extend that date, whether it's to 2033, 2034. We want to do something that makes sense.
But right now, I'm not sure how that works with Colorado's climate action plan, sort of this big law governing the state's climate response. It requires utilities to cut their carbon emissions 80% by 2030.
Sam, a few weeks ago, you reported here that the EPA is pushing the state to keep coal plants open longer. So how does Trump fit into the back and forth over the Colorado Springs coal plant?
That's a really good question. So Colorado wanted the Environmental Protection Agency to approve an air quality plan. And if they had, it would have cemented these dates to close coal-fired power plants into federal law. The EPA essentially a few weeks ago said, nope, we're rejecting these retirement dates for your coal plants. And a big reason why is that Colorado Springs utilities approached them about their concerns. And those issues were cited extensively in this draft decision, rejecting the key parts of that Colorado plan that would have closed these plants.
Well, Sam, it sounds like this new interest in coal is also helping a coal mine in southwestern Colorado. Our colleague Ishan Thakur found that the company behind the operation's now being a little bit more bullish about its own future.
Yeah, that's right. This company is Core Natural Resources, and it operates a mine near Paonia. President Trump has signed new policies to cut the costs of coal mining and taxes for the coal industry. And so in a recent earnings call, Core said that that could help expand its operations, especially as electricity demand grows. So with coal regaining momentum, we'll have to see if Colorado is serious about its commitment to cleaner types of energy.
Okay, CPR climate reporter Sam Brash, thank you.
Thank you.
There's a growing trend in policing that uses drones as the first eyes on the scene of a crime. CPR's Dan Boyce recently visited with the Colorado Springs Department's drone unit to learn more about how it all works. Dan, what did you see during your visit?
As soon as I arrived at the police department for these interviews, I actually saw the drone pick up off the roof of the police department and just flew out somewhere on a call. And imagine this thing's maybe about the size of a suitcase, 4 propellers, and then this big high-def camera on it. And it's part of this relatively new unit within the police department called the Real-Time Crime Center, with just a ton of these large flat screens on the walls, big computer monitors at all the desks, and they all have these detailed maps and police databases on them. And then they have these lists of live camera feeds all around the city. Grant Nelson's a detective with the Real-Time Crime Center, and when I met him, he was flying the drone with a PlayStation 5 controller.
I've been training for this job my whole life.
Colorado Springs has been operating this drone as a first responder program for about a year now. And then also we've got Denver, Commerce City, Castle Rock, Arapahoe County. They all have similar types of drone programs underway or in development.
So how is the drone in Colorado Springs helping the police there to solve crimes?
This is a true first responder. They get a call about something happening, and this big drone flies off from the police department. And you can imagine the advantages of having this first eye in the sky on what's happening there and how that might be useful. That Detective Grant Nelson, he used to be a street cop, and now he's tied to a desk in the Real-Time Crime Center, but he is totally fine with that.
I really think that this is the way of the future, and I think this is where policing is going to go.
The drone will likely be able to get to a lot of locations faster than officers might be able to. They gave me this example of a recent carjacking, and the drone, it was able to fly right to the car's location and saw the suspects had walked almost a mile away from the vehicle, and the drone pilot was able to tell the officers exactly where to find those people and take them into custody.
Okay, so it sounds like this drone is maybe the sidekick that police have always needed.
It feels like this absolutely essential member of their team. And the drone is just one part of what the Real-Time Crime Center can do. Just imagine all of the data that police already have access to: red light cameras, body-worn cameras, security cameras. All of this data, all of these live camera feeds, more than 800 camera sources across Colorado Springs alone. The software in this real-time crime center allows them to just consolidate and coordinate all of that information as something's unfolding.
Okay, Dan, while this does seem very useful, it obviously raises some concerns about privacy. So how are police addressing that?
The Electronic Frontier Foundation, that's been an organization that's been prominent in cautioning about these real-time crime centers. There are now more than 250 across the country. They see them as a dangerous expansion of the police surveillance state. And I will say, seeing it, while it does at one time seem so futuristic, it's hard not to feel that there could be something a little dystopian, imagining cameras watching you potentially from every angle all the time. But Sergeant Matt McLean, he works at the crime center. He says he does hear these concerns, but says this is about keeping the public and officers safer.
We don't have time to just be watching people who aren't breaking the law. The reason that we're watching them is because it might be solving a crime, not because we're just watching what somebody's doing on their lunch break.
Did they say if there's anything that they won't use the drone for? Like, are there limits around what types of things it could investigate?
I think probably for now it's most useful to talk about the legal limitations about where the drone can fly. The police department, they needed an FAA license to fly the drone, and the license they have only allows them to fly between 200 and 400 feet above the ground, so no higher or lower, and it can only operate in a 3-mile radius around the police department headquarters. But if and when this program expands and say the department's putting drones all over the city or something like that, I think at that time, many more of those questions about limitations will come up and we'll need to find answers to them.
Okay, CPR's Dan Boyce. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hidden beneath the surface of thousands of quiet ponds across the state, beaver dams are doing something extraordinary.
If you've ever been out on a beaver pond, you really know that they are true hotspots of biodiversity on the landscape.
Brian Sullivan is the Wetlands Program Manager for Colorado Parks and Wildlife. He says beavers help store water that allow fish, ducks, and other critters to survive and thrive, something that's particularly important as river flows have gone down in our prolonged drought. Beavers also slow runoff from burn scars and create natural fire breaks.
Those lush beaver pond areas are often the last remaining green places on the landscape.
All of this is why Colorado is eagerly building a plan to restore beaver habitat statewide, and it wants your input. Sullivan and State Aquatic Species Coordinator Boyd Wright say a common misconception about beavers is that they're an abundant species. While there are thousands in the state now, before fur trapping, there used to be a lot more, and their disappearance by the hundreds of thousands has a lasting impact.
And so we need to recognize the decline in the beaver numbers from historic levels and recognize the benefits to the landscape by restoring them.
But state wildlife officials also recognize that not everyone sees them as a welcome neighbor. Beavers can cause flooding or chew trees intended for shade or privacy.
A lot of folks have the impression that if you have a beaver conflict, the first and best solution is to get that beaver out of there.
By either capturing it or killing it. But Wright says removing one often just invites another to move in. So he thinks it's a better idea to learn to live with them.
There's been a lot of advances in some of the tools and methods to enable coexistence. Hopefully, through this strategy, people will at least be more aware and there will be more support to utilize them going forward.
That's part of why the state's hosting a survey on beaver conservation, where you can air your grievances, if you have any, before the state implements its plan to restore more beavers to Colorado.
For example, the hunting and trapping community is concerned about maybe losing privileges as more people are scrutinizing beaver harvest. And also agricultural landowners who have the freedom to take care of their nuisance wildlife issues are perhaps concerned about losing some of the tools in their toolbox to do that. So we are trying to listen to all those audiences.
For Wright, there is one beaver in particular who sticks in his mind as they prepare for this project.
We nicknamed her Sheila.
Sheila was part of a beaver colony they needed to relocate while doing cutthroat trout restoration. But she escaped her enclosure, dead set on her dam building efforts.
Through just like brute determination and that, eager beaver mentality that we all associate with beavers. And that just made me really respect what this animal is capable of doing.
Public input on the state's beaver restoration plan is open through the end of August. You can find the survey to share your thoughts with CPW at the link in our show notes. Reporting for today's show came from CPR's Ishan Thakur and KRCC's Haviland Haskell. Follow Colorado Today in your podcast app. I'm Haley May. This is CPR News.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Safeway. Shop online and get $30 off your first online order when you use code SAVE30 at checkout. Get the same prices, deals, and rewards as in-store. Get started at Safeway.com or the Safeway app.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Credit Union of Colorado. With access to over 30,000 ATMs and a mobile app, they're dedicated to offering the services of a big bank with a heart. Learn more at honestlygood.org.